Hi, Kim here. I'd like to start this video with a light bulb moment. Now, I've had a couple of light bulb moments in my life, but this one was at age 59. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my work laptop, two monitors, notebooks, pens. My foot was up on the opposite chair because I had foot surgery months earlier and my foot was still puffy because I hadn't taken the 4 weeks off you typically take off after having foot surgery because you're supposed to have your foot elevated above your heart for those 4 weeks. I didn't tell my boss that I was having foot surgery because I worked from home and I figured I'd just have the weekend to recover. You can laugh if you want. Everyone knows that you going through any type of surgery, you need more than a few days to recover, especially foot surgery. But anyway, I'm sitting at my kitchen working on my laptop, feeling exhausted, mind you, because my days were long and the job was stressful. That day, my significant other happened to walk into the kitchen and grab food out of the refrigerator. I probably scowled at him for making noise, and he said to me, "Why don't you just shut your laptop at 5? Stop checking email, walk away from your laptop at 5, and be done." I laughed and thought to myself, if it were only that easy. So I explained to him what my job was really like. Every day, the morning started with a 7 a.m. mandatory team meeting. This meant I was up at 6 or 6:30, online, prepping for that meeting because each of us teammates had to speak of what we were doing that day. And I had to check emails just in case something changed before that meeting. My tasks each day were a foot high if they were paper on a desk. And if I didn't complete those tasks each day, they would just roll over to the next day's foot high tasks. There was always a lunchtime meeting because someone needed to squeeze in a meeting to talk about something. And there was always a 5 p.m. meeting because someone had pushed a meeting to the end of the day because they needed to discuss something that they couldn't find a time in earlier in the day. I concluded with, so my days start at 6 or 6:30 in the morning, every morning, and don't finish until 6 or 6:30 at night, every day. At that moment, the light bulb went on, and I thought to myself, why am I doing this job? I don't even like this job. I laugh now, but seriously, it woke me up. I was plugging along in a job that I didn't even like doing. The people I worked with were great, and that's probably why I didn't really think about the actual work I was doing. I was just plugging along every day, long hours every week, without even realizing I didn't find any purpose. There was no passion in what I was doing. On that light bulb day, I plotted my exit. I met with a financial planner to review my assets and how my financial future looked for retirement. On my 60th birthday, a few months later, I resigned. I decided to leave corporate. I realized I didn't need to continue on a path of frustration and stress due to long, exhausting days and meetings and tasks a foot high. Now, I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. In my 20s, I sold Avon as a side gig. In my 30s, I sold Mary Kay and Southern Living products. And even in my 50s, I flipped a few houses. I never made a lot of money, especially with Avon and Mary Kay, because I spent the extra money on myself for products for myself. So I wasn't a very successful entrepreneur, but those were social things that I did on the side. And when you first retire, there's always projects around the house that you have now time to do. You may have things on a bucket list that you want to get to. Maybe it's travel, maybe it's seeing something or doing something that you've never done. So when I retired, I pulled out those fun, creative ideas I had, pulling them out of my brain and getting them out into the world, things that I didn't have time for while I was working. I have a few single girlfriends who worked well into their 70s, not because they needed the money. They were both in healthcare and making a good salary, but because they didn't have any hobbies or a plan for what they do in retirement. I have ex coworkers who are still working, and when asked when they're going to retire, I hear, I'm writing it out. I have 7 more years. 7 years. To me, that sounds like a jail sentence. There doesn't seem to be any passion in what they're doing. They're just writing it out. Now, if you love your job and it's giving you the freedom and flexibility to do the things you want to do, like travel or see family and go to events in the middle of the week, great. More power to you. You're lucky. You may have a part-time job where you have days off during the week that you can do these things that you want to do on those days off. You're getting that social connection, which is really important, and it gives you a purpose to get up every day. Now, not everyone has a light bulb moment in their 50s and has the ability to retire, but everyone has the ability to choose to make a change. So if you're working at something that isn't a passion, or you're doing something that doesn't give you purpose, I want you to ask yourself these questions. Have you reflected on your current situation? Are you in a job you love, or are you just writing it out? Do you have plans and things to do in your retirement? What will a typically Tuesday look like? If you're too young to retire, maybe financially it will be a few more years down the road. Have you thought about changing jobs and doing something less stressful with more freedom and free time? Are you going to be able to check off the items on your bucket list before you die? Not to be morbid. Not everyone has a light bulb moment in their 50s that changed their career path. So I'm shining a light on you today to stop and reflect on your current situation. Are you excited to wake up every day, or are you just writing it out? Comment with your answers below. Did you have a light bulb moment too?